Good morning. I'm here today to talk to you about genius and what is genius. I believe that as I grew up, I considered what would be somebody who's a genius. And there was a potential question that always sat in my mind. And as I became a student, I saw kids who got straight A's. And I understood that it was not me. And I was somebody who had a C average in school. And as I grew up, my ambition grew. And yet, I knew that to be a person who's a salesperson, you don't need to be a A student. And yet, I always wondered what I did wrong, or why wasn't I. Let me rewind. This was before I found Jesus Christ, who is my Lord and Savior. But I always wondered what did I do wrong not to be a genius? What did I do wrong not to earn the right to be smart or to be a genius? Because I always seeked it. I always had felt really deeply that I was destined for a position where people would respect and honor what I had to say. And I knew that my intellect wasn't as high as some people who I had known. It was a big source of self-doubt for me. And I always questioned what I was here for. And when I found sales, I felt like I found something that I was actually able to flex. And so, as I became somebody who performed in their career, I realized how empty my life felt. And it felt empty because as I was building my career and my family and everything that goes along with those two things, my perspective on genius took a very toxic turn. And I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel happy. And so what happened next was I sought out coaching. And I felt empowered, but not equipped to become. Well, I felt unequipped to lead. And so fast forward to when I found somebody who's a coach who helped me realize that being human is not being perfect. And this is not what I'm here to talk to you about. I felt grateful that my strength lies in being somebody who is pursuing something and able to reflect on my shortcomings. I think it's something that you can recognize in listening to this that is a theme for me, is recognizing my shortcomings. And so, what I started doing was taking a course on how to read quickly. And it turns something so boring and slow and it felt too steady for me. It felt like something genius would be able to do, into something that was actually, to me, fun. Because by becoming a quick reader, I felt enthusiastic about completing a book quicker than I would have. And by becoming somebody who wrote or read, sorry, let me restart. By becoming somebody who read a lot, like 10 minutes a day at least, I began to understand how being a great reader was all about comfort in what you're doing. And so, a couple things that I learned are: one, habits are important. Doing the right thing over time for a long time is key. And yet, by taking a day off a week, 2 days off a week, and not having any self-doubt or resentment toward outside things that allowed me to get away from my objective, or even interior things that told me that I shouldn't do it, and call it, in the best sense of the word, lack of willpower, started to understand that becoming great is not something that requires 100% dialed in. But what does require is you to be forgiving of yourself, you to be okay with when your body tells you that it's a good time to just enjoy yourself. And so I found so much power that I began to start sitting outside on my back patio in a comfortable seat. So grateful for God, being outside, feeling the wind and the beautiful weather, and just enjoying outside. I was able to read for 2 hours one night, and I understood now what it meant to be genius. And I realized that if I spent 2 hours every night reading, nobody could ever catch up with me in my learning, because nobody else is doing that. At least anybody I would hire was never doing that. And I began to get discouraged, because every night it was a Ohio thing, and if you're in Ohio, you might not go outside so much when it starts to get cold. In the West, you might not go outside because it gets too hot in the summer. In certain seasons, you might not go outside because it rains. So I started becoming discouraged because I couldn't go outside anymore and read. And my next step in my strategy to continue to read quickly was to come to a spot that I felt was safe and comfortable and read. So first it started out with me having my book and my phone and coming under my kitchen table and having time to myself when it was quiet to focus on a book. And then I started realizing that I have this headlamp that I can turn on and read. And then I started to realize that this is a good, safe place for me to read. And so every night I get 3 books that I want to read, or it could be 1 book, it could be 3 books, it could be 5 books. And I get in here and I start reading them. And I have a pen and I highlight my favorite portions of these books. I have a notebook to take notes in. I have water right next to me. I have my headlamp. And I have AI, Grok, voice mode on to listen for when I have a question about what a word means. And all of a sudden, my genius is starting to come out. What a beautiful thing. And who knew that this is the solution? I think we can all agree that when we stop taking the pressure off ourselves to perform and we start enjoying the process, we start finding solutions that God laid out for us, and all we had to do is feel the comfort to go and take those blessings. And for that, I've unlocked a new chapter for myself. And I have so many people to thank for that. And I appreciate you listening to me, and I hope that I could give you some good information today. You've been a great audience, and with that, I'll take any questions.